Love, the Seth Material, and the Full Secret, Connecting the Dots. This presentation is called Love, the Seth Material, and the Full Secret, Connecting the Dots. And I am called Barrie Gellis, poet, author, and one of the original Seth class members back in the 1970s, one of the New York boys. So to start, Seth says that love is the basis for all existence. And I'll add that love is a major key to the whole Seth Material and the whole secret, and behind why we created physical reality, and that we had a key purpose for creating it. If the Seth Material was a song, it would be sung in the key of love. And all of this will be covered in this presentation. So let's first discuss love, starting with briefly looking at it as a cliche and as the basis for existence. As a cliche, Kojak, the TV detective, was famous for saying, "Who loves you, baby?" And for the deeper meaning of love, the poet E. E. Cummings wrote, "Love is the every only God that spoke this earth so glad and big." One way or another, everyone knows love because it is, ironically, the most important thing in the world, as well as one of the world's most meaningless cliches, from Kojak's "Who loves you, baby?" to a million people saying "love ya" in bars, at work and play, and all over. All these cliches create baggage, weighing the word down. Yet, also ironically, subconsciously, we probably all actually mean all of these cliche loves that we say without thinking. Because on the deepest non-physical levels, we are actually always in touch with the love within us. Love holds everything together, is in everything, is always there, and is the foundation and atmosphere within which we live. As we all have felt at least one time or another, there is an ecstasy to the joy of love on the one hand, and a barbed wire abyss of lost love or unrequited love on the other hand, and all in between points of nervousness, closeness, and confusion. But basically, and generally speaking, we all know of love in our own unique, intimate, and general ways. We all know about the empty corniness and cliche aspects of the word, while at the same time, we know and feel the inner depth of its power and, well, of its love. But what are the ramifications of what all this actually means? What is the big so what? What is the actual importance of love? How does it fit into whatever big picture there may be? The concept of love itself often seems to be way overused, from water cooler cliches, New Age incense gatherings, to organized religion's Saturday and Sunday dogma. All of this can add to the cynicism. Yet one person's cliche may be another person's epiphany. And so who's to tell anyone that they're wrong? Not me. I'm just discussing it. So, all in all, as far as I believe, love is actually the most important thing in the world, even though it may create the anguish of separation via deaths or of relationships ending, or even of suffering through the anguish of the boring cliches and witnessing the various cliffs of hypocrisy from which many leap. Love your neighbor, but there's racism, greed, and war. I love you, but if you love someone else, then I hate you. Yet, does anyone seriously ask, why is love so important? And here is where we bring in the Seth Material. You may have your own words, but one way or another, if you are familiar with the Seth Material, to whatever degree you are, then you will know that the Seth material is loaded with mind-blowing concepts like you create your own reality, time is simultaneous, you're as dead right now as you'll ever be, and fill in the blanks yourself. Now think for a minute and ask yourself, what one word or phrase would you use that both weaves through and explains the power and attraction of the Seth material? We know that the Seth material is spiritual, earthy, poetic, intuitive, and intelligent, and that it reaches far into our minds and lives. And just by reading it, it stimulates both our outer and inner worlds of intellect, intuition, self-wisdom, understanding, and memories. As readers, we know this. And everyone I know also has this same feeling, that you can read one Seth paragraph one day, and then again later on, read that same paragraph and see something new that you never saw before, and you say, wow. So it's certainly not a surface philosophy with cotton candy ideas that go no further than sticking to your hair. So I ask again, what word or phrase would you use to summarize the Seth material? You create your own reality. The present is the point of power. We live simultaneous lives with infinite probable realities. These are all mind-blowing ideas. At various times, any one of them would have been my answer. But today, my answer is an answer that I never would have given to myself or anyone until recently while preparing for this presentation. This just shows you again how you evolve and find new things in the material each time you look. And the answer I found is one word. And that word itself, left alone, doesn't even hold up on its own and needs further context. For the word I speak of is laden and weighed down with its own baggage, and people have stuck their own pins into it for centuries, and so it's leaking all over the place. The answer I found or came up with concerning what word or phrase best describes or summarizes the Seth material is the word love. Love is the most important concept in the Seth material. But it just doesn't hold up on its own, just by saying the word love. I might as well just say carrots. So it needs further exploration and context to remove it from the bland cliche cesspool in which it often resides. Love is not only the basis of the universe, as Seth has said, and as I agree, but it is also the foundation of the whole Seth material, and what I see as its overall main message, a message we will soon discuss. The question to me is and was, and now I put it to you, why would no Seth reader, even the most diligent ones, ever come up with the word love as a summary, which is my assumption, of course? I've thought about it, and I believe it is because in the Seth material, the word and concept of love is not used as a hammer to hit people over their heads and hearts, so to speak, to make it stick out like a sore Christmas tree. Nor is it used to create guilt or dictate behavior, or make dogmatic demands on our lives, such as, you must love, you must have unconditional love, you must love your neighbor, you must love your enemy, you must love, because it's love. In other words, Seth does not turn love into a tool, slogan, dogma, or cliche. Yet, love is woven, spoken and unspoken, throughout the whole material. And once you see it, It's like that old cucumber. You can't unpickle it, and you can't de-love the Seth material once you see it. Once you realize how important and crucial love is to the Seth material, you just can't let it fly off invisibly once again. As I said, it's not that Seth doesn't mention love or how important it is, for he does. But his mentionings of love are like dots throughout the material, and we as readers, and more importantly you, as your own person, self, thinker, feeler, you, as the hero of your own inner journey of self-awareness, you have to connect the dots. As Seth has said in the Seth video, which is from class June 4th, 1974, the message is given in different terms, and you give the message to yourselves, for you are the message. The medium is not the message, you are the message. If only we can show you yourselves enough, then you will trust yourselves enough to explore those dimensions of your own greater reality that no one else can ever know or ever explore. There are journeys of consciousness that no one can take but you. And yet, as you take them, you take steps in other terms for others, and you leave marks for your brothers and sisters to follow in their own explorations. Cards that say, I have been here. The place is safe. I leave you a sign of peace. Your being alone is important and has validity beyond any philosophy. That is the message that you are trying to give to yourself. You are each trying to rediscover for yourselves in your terms now, after centuries of myths and distortions, the validity of your own beings. I ask you not to trust the validity of my being, which is none of your concern, but to trust the validity of your being, which is very much of your concern. So, in other words, we have to trust ourselves to find our own answers. We have to connect the dots. I think that if Seth connected the dots for us, we wouldn't fully understand or get them. For as Seth had often said in class, one way or another, and I paraphrase, if I answer your question, you'll think that you have the whole answer, and you will stop looking. But you would only really have half the answer, end paraphrase. To find and digest the answers, we have to connect the dots. Connecting the dots ourselves creates the glue and strength of our own emotional discoveries and beliefs that gives the answers their depth and sticking power, enabling ourselves to understand the ramifications of the answers, in this case, of love, and enabling ourselves to see how it fits into the Seth material, the universe, and into our lives and into everything. So now, let's try to put love and the Seth material together. The first thing to grasp or remember are these concepts from Seth. Love is the basis of the universe. It is the foundation of all realities, and therefore it is part of the innate human nature. Therefore, it is part of the innate human equation and nature. As humans, we are all a part of all that is, a part of the universe, and we are each individually made of the stuff and consciousness of existence, which is love. And so, the first Seth concept that I wish to discuss is this. Love is the basis of all existence. Seth, all consciousness of whatever extent feels love, though it may not know the verbal designation, for love is the basis of all existence. Seth, love has a biological as well as a spiritual basis that forms the basis of all life. So, as the Beatles said, all you need is love, and they were correct. And this innate love, which composes and holds together the entire universe, explains why the innate nature of humankind is love, compassion, and goodness. And this is because we are each made of the stuff of the universe, which is love. Stardust is love. To quote Joni Mitchell, we are stardust. Seth, love is a biological necessity operating in all biological life. Without love, there is no physical commitment to life, no psychic hold. That is a very powerful statement. Not only is love a biological necessity, but without love, there is no physical commitment to life, no psychic hold. This means that without love, you would not even remain physical, nor would physical reality even stay glued together. In other words, love is necessary in order to be and stay physical in the first place, and in order for the whole physical dimension to exist. Seth, love is the basis for any reality that any consciousness knows. If it would not be for love, then I would not be here. And if it were not for love, you would not have the planet that you know. So love is the basis of existence. This explains why the next Seth concept is true and comes into play, and that is, people are innately good, loving, and compassionate. Seth, you were born with an inbuilt recognition of your own goodness. You were born with an inner recognition of your rightness in the universe. These assumptions are the basis of what I call natural law. You are born loving. You are born compassionate. Those attributes also belong to natural law. So part of natural law is that we are born loving, compassionate, and good. And this is our human nature because we are a part of the universe, a part of all that is, which both consist of love. So my next question is, are we meant to act in harmony with our nature or against it? Seth, the innate love within you forms the planet that you know, the physical bodies that you inhabit, and the seasons and the reality in which you presently have your existence. In other words, love forms our planet, forms our bodies, and forms our entire physical reality. And this love is within us. And that's some statement there. And I assume that it is not within us so that we can just ignore it, but to act in harmony with it. Love is not only the basis of the universe and intrinsic within us, but it is also the foundation of the whole Seth material and its overall main message, which is also the foundation and message of the full secret, which we'll get to in a moment. So now, let's begin to connect the dots between love and the Seth material. Once you actually think about it, the first part is simple logic. Love is the foundation of the whole Seth material, because all of physical reality is created with and held together with love. And the Seth material is about humans creating, living in, and learning from physical reality. And love is also the very nature of us humans. So without love, there would be no physical reality and no human beings to address the material to, and therefore no necessity for the Seth material to exist. The second part, once seen, is simple too, but not quite as simple. What is Seth's overall main message? Well, it concerns physical reality and why we created it in the first place. And you gotta surmise by now that love is going to be part of this answer. Since physical reality, in fact, all realities and human beings consist of love and cannot exist without it, then it follows that Seth's main overall message also involves love. And the next question is, to what purpose? To what end? What is the purpose of love? And how is this all tied together? What is Seth's main overall message? What is the purpose of love? And what is the purpose of the Seth material? This is where the secret comes into play. I will assume that you all heard of the secret. In our public discourse, it is in short that you create your own reality via your beliefs and expectations. And you get what you concentrate on via the law of attraction. Well, it turns out, as I see it, this secret, as it is thus commonly understood, is really only half of the secret, part one, if you will. And it is also actually half of Seth's overall main message, and they both come together with a purpose. So, the first half of Seth's main message is also the first half of the secret. You create your own reality via your beliefs, expectations, thoughts, and emotions. You may have noticed that what I call the second half of the secret is never mentioned at all by New Age folks. They may not know that it exists, for it is always left out. But Seth does not leave it out. For as I said, it is the second half of Seth's overall message. So let me explain. The second half of the secret and of Seth's overall message is that in the process of creating your own reality, you are to help and not harm others. Both help and not harm. So that is the second half of the secret. Sounds simple and straightforward, but the trick is why? Why are we to help and not harm others? Is it dogma, rule, responsibility, or obligation? No, 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 and no. The answer is twofold. First off, we would choose to help and not harm others because it is joyful to do, and it naturally gives us the feeling of joy. Why is that? Because our nature is love, compassion, and goodness, and there is a joy, and it becomes fun to act in harmony with one's own nature and not against it. Seth, man's cooperative nature is his innate desire for fellowship, his natural bent for taking care of others, and for altruistic behavior. Natural bent means having a strong inclination to do something. In other words, we have a strong natural inclination for taking care of others. We also have a strong natural inclination for altruistic behavior, which actually means that we have a strong and natural unselfish regard for the welfare of others. Seth, you are now dwelling in physical reality. It behooves you to help others. When you take from others, you take from yourselves. When you give to others, you give to yourselves. it behooves us to help others. This means that it is necessary, proper, and advantageous to help others. We'll find out why later. And it goes way beyond that it is fun to do so. The fun part is actually a tool to a further end. In any case, this is all powerful stuff coming from Seth. Let's look at what else Seth says about helping and not harming others. Seth, when it is possible, it is not only wise but advantageous to help any living creature, regardless of its stature in your scheme of things. Why is it advantageous? Well, we'll get to that answer very soon, too. And it relates to the reason why we chose physical reincarnational experiences at all. Seth, you cannot say the poor are poor simply because they chose poverty, and therefore there is no need for me to help them. This attitude can easily draw poverty to you in the next experience. So that puts an end to that old new age adage, you create your own reality. To not help others and to let them suffer because they are creating their own reality and I'm creating mine. As I said, this part is publicly what is actually known as the secret. But that's the slant it has, the TV infomercial variety. In short, you can create abundance for yourself and have whatever you want via the law of attraction. End of story. End of secret. But what about others, other people? Where do they fit in? This infomercial secret answer is other people are creating their own reality and they have to learn. And you will help them by modeling abundance and driving your new car past them while they sleep on the street. And that is basically where other people fit into the infomercial secret. But this first half of the secret is actually not that you can create abundance. It is that you create your own reality. And that is what is important. The creating abundance part is just thrown in as an example to attract you to the infomercial or book. What you create is always up to you, whether you are conscious of the concept or not. And what you create is the focus of the second unspoken and unrecognized half of the secret. But Seth did speak of it. Seth did add this secret to the secret. So, what is the second half of the secret? For it is totally true that you can attract great wealth and cars if that is what you want. But there is still that unspoken and unknown guidance of the second half of the secret, which is you still must learn to act in harmony with your innate love, compassion, and goodness, and not just stop at creating your own abundance, if that is your choice. Believing that the secret to the universe is having 3 more houses. But you got to ask, as I did, where the hell has the second half of the secret been? Well, it has been in the Seth Material if you connect the dots. And it is the second part of Seth's overall message. It remains de facto hidden or not seen because it is so easy just to stop looking any further once you receive the spiritual suggestion to basically just care about yourself and not deal with the problems and sufferings of other people. And of course, you won't find what you don't look for. And anyway, Isn't that a great secret illumination to pursue? Just taking care of yourself? This is the public secret. Quote, paraphrase. After great digging, the ancient message is, take care of yourself and let others deal with themselves. End quote. The secret is the New Age translation of Gordon Gekko's Greed is Good. But why would people so easily stop at the belief greed is good? Or stop at the secret being I can create abundance for myself? As I asked, what about others? To actively care about others, you need to have a true feeling of oneness and empathy with others. Seth offers a deeper psychological explanation of what keeps people so stuck on the first half of the secret. Seth, in order to experience a deep feeling of oneness with other human beings, you need the ability to open yourselves up enough so that you can bear to understand the reality of another individual. The more terrified you are, personally, the less you dare let down your guard, and you build up psychological walls to protect you. You shove aside the problems of others because they simply remind you of your own. Now, learning to be spontaneous, you can free these abilities within yourself. It will not be an intellectual matter of thinking that you are a part of all that is. It will instead be an emotional awareness of that relationship. To paraphrase Seth, to feel deep feelings of oneness with others, you must understand and feel their problems, which can then remind you of your own problems and pain that you don't want to face or deal with. So, it is just easier to build up walls and keep others out. But once you are able to emotionally realize and not just intellectually believe that we are all together, all a part of all that is, then these walls disappear because there is no longer a need for them. And what is necessary to do in order to lose these fears is to learn to be spontaneous and accept who and where you are in any area you want to look at. This will allow you to openly look at and accept others as well. This looking within is what I call taking the brave inner journey of self-awareness. Seth, the answers to the nature of reality, the intimate knowledge of all that is, that you all seek, is within your present experience. It will not be found outside of yourselves, but through an inner journey into yourself, through yourself, and through the world that you know. So, what does being spontaneous actually mean? Seth does say it all the time, be spontaneous. It really just means to trust your emotions in order to connect with yourself. For this will eventually help you to act in harmony with your nature of love, compassion, and goodness, and then feel your natural connection with those around you. And then feel your natural, well, why don't we just read that twice? And then feel your natural connection with others around you. Okay, let's say you have explored within and now feel this natural connection with others. What do you do once you're not afraid? Let's look at the next quote. Seth, the people on your planet need every bit of help and encouragement they can get from each other. They can get from each person alive. The world needs caring. The world needs every hand and eye and cries out for expression of love and caring. Spontaneity is key. Spontaneity knows its own discipline. In short, once you are not afraid, you will be a person who gives help and encouragement. And in Seth terms, spontaneity is key. So, we have to learn to trust the spontaneity of our being and to act spontaneously. Because spontaneity is really just acting on trusting and loving yourself, which transforms us into trusting and loving others. Eventually, we will realize, as Seth says, spontaneity knows its own discipline. This means that spontaneity knows when to say no and not cross certain lines, like punching someone in the nose with whom you disagree. And it means when to say yes to other actions, which actually put and keep you in touch with your nature of love, compassion, and goodness. Seth, if you allow your spontaneity its own freedom, then you can quite happily have whatever you want. But spontaneity will also lead you to thoughts of others, to thoughts of love for others. It will lead you to realize that you cannot plunder your planet. And it will lead you to realize that as long as one person is starving, then you are starving in ways that you are too ignorant to recognize. Connecting the dots, spontaneity leads to the joy of helping others. Okay, a little turn the page break. Thus we learn the anti-Gordon Gekko message, and that message is not that wanting abundance is bad. It is that altruism is good, fun, and needed in the equation. And only by feeling free to act spontaneously can your inner and outer journeys be fun and not forced, because spontaneity is, by definition, voluntary and not forced. And when we enjoy ourselves, we then pursue our lessons eagerly, and we ultimately don't form resentments along the way. On the contrary, if we feel forced or obligated to, let's say, help people because we are supposed to or should, even if or when we don't feel like it or don't want to, it can screw us up. We can easily build up resentments of, don't tell me what to do, don't make me feel guilty, or that I'm bad just because I don't want to help someone. Why don't you just stick to the message and tell me to seek abundance? Don't tell me to worry about other people's problems. Of course, no one is bad or guilty if they don't want to help others. And no one is telling anyone to worry at all. And you don't help others in order to pass a goodness test, for you already are good. A good, worthy, and deserving person who has the right to be happy by virtue of being alive, no matter what you do. And no further justification is necessary, even if you never try to help one person your whole lifetime. The way it goes is this, that you would freely choose to help others because you would actually feel the experience that it is fun to act in harmony with your nature. And so here is where the concept of our nature comes into play. Spontaneity has its own discipline because spontaneity is connected to our nature, which guides us. If you will, we are our own inner guides and angels, for those who like that term. The fact is, as I've said, According to Seth, people are loving, compassionate, and good. There is no escaping that. That is a given. And it is only by freely choosing and not being forced or pressured to do anything, but by freely choosing that you will instinctively experience, feel, and know that it is fun to help others and not fun to harm them or let them suffer. And you will feel natural hints of a growing joy of love concerning others and have no fear of their problems. Again, not because helping and not harming others is a heavy responsibility or something that you must do, but rather because it is something that you naturally would choose to do and want to do, akin to eating your favorite ice cream, because it feels good, because it is a fun choice and not a responsibility with burdens and resentments. You don't say, oh damn, I have to eat that damn ice cream again that I love so much, end quote. So the thing is, the magical emotional reality is that, according to Seth, we begin to guide our choices of behavior when it comes to helping and not harming others based on the concepts of what Seth calls violations and natural guilt. These two concepts are the most unknown and misunderstood of Seth concepts, in my opinion. And as far as I can tell, they are not found in the material of any other entities speaking today. So, what are violations and natural guilt? Very briefly, a violation is that which violates your own nature of love, compassion, and goodness. And natural guilt is like an inner tugging instinct or feeling that we feel in the pause of reflection before repeating a harmful act. What happens is that something inside nudges us, tugs at us, urges us not to repeat it, not to harm others again. And this eventually makes our choice to harm or not a conscious choice. This inner tugging is what Seth calls natural guilt. The whole purpose of this instinct of natural guilt, as we take our repeated inner tag team reincarnational journeys of self-awareness throughout all of our lifetimes, is to turn each self, all human beings, into metaphorical self-maps, which guide our actions to be in harmony with our innate love, compassion, and goodness, to consciously learn what the animals already biologically know. Now, this concept of acting on our love and not harming others must be super important because we created and installed it in ourselves in order to guide us in just that direction. That sounds important to me. I mean, we didn't just do it for the hell of it. And further, this explains why we need a physical reality and its rules in the first place. And that is in order to do all of this. Like you need a baseball field and its rules in order to play baseball. Therefore, physical reality must actually be super important too, and not just, quote, some illusion that is supposed to be disregarded or overcome, as many New Age folks seem to believe, playing second fiddle to non-physical reality, or F2. But we had reasons to enter physical existence. Seth, when you decide to enter into physical existence, in your mind and in your consciousness, you form the frame within which you will operate. You are not alone in the painting, for you have not formed a reality in which yours is the isolate. You are in a reality with others because you have chosen it. So all of you together choose the frame about the painting. You have chosen a particular mass painting, a particular portrait of a century in which you play your part. Water break. Okay. We needed physical reality, or F1, and so we created it. Remember, we already had non-physical reality, but we needed a physical reality for three reasons. One, so that we could have linear time in the first place, so that we could actually have natural guilt's pause of reflection before we act. Remember, without linear time, no pause can exist. Two, we needed a physical reality to have a place in which to act, react, and interact with each other. Three, we needed a physical reality in which vulnerability, suffering, and death, as well as joy and glee, could even exist together in the first place. Their purpose is to help us to deeply understand how important it is not to cause suffering and how important it is instead to help. And how does this work? Because the stakes of vulnerability, suffering, and death are just too damn high to blink away. Thinking about it even makes Seth angry. Seth, a fly is holier than a pope who caused death, or than a guru who whips you across your shoulder so that you can understand your guilt. And I speak in righteous anger on behalf of all creatures, because I have been a creature many times. So, if to cause harm would make a pope unholy and motivate Seth to feel and share his righteous anger at harming others, then it must be pretty bad to cause harm in the first place. And this sets the stage for why we did not just create physical reality for its joys, orgasms, and beauty alone, but also for the vulnerable possibility of harm and death. Without the possibility of physical death, vulnerability, harm, and suffering, no one could be hurt, and there would be no need to help anyone or to learn compassion. And Seth would not have or share his righteous anger, and we would have no need to consciously choose to be aware of or act on our nature. But we created physical reality and are in physical reality in order to learn all of those things. Here's what Seth said about the necessity of physical reality's vulnerability. Seth, the horror and the results of mismanagement and the vulnerability are the teaching methods that each consciousness has accepted before entering your physical system. In no other field of reality are the terms so drastic. For this reason, the inner self withholds much of its knowledge. There must be no leaning upon the very basic F2 fact that behind and within the physical system there is relief. You must believe in the physical reality and accept the vulnerability. From your physical system spring some of the most advanced of all identities. They go on and learn from other realities, granted, but yours is the hardest to manage, and those who accept it go off into a certain line of development where the potentials are beyond anything of which you can presently conceive. In your reality, you are vulnerable, agony is real, still, it is not the whole reality. So, why did we create physical reality in the first place. We have created physical reality in the first place in order to have a place in which there is linear time, vulnerability of matter and death, so that we can learn that as we create our own reality, which is part one of Seth's overall message and of the full secret, we are not to harm but to help others, which is part two of Seth's overall message and of the full secret. Thus, we are not here simply to learn that there is more to physical reality than meets the eye. We need physical reality on its terms, and that is why we created it, for its differences with non-physical reality. For we already had a non-physical reality. We needed the differences. Along with this instinct of natural guilt, helping us to help and not harm others, is the awareness that when we do harm others, we harm a part of ourselves as individuals, a part of humankind as a collective, and a part of all that is. In short, when we harm even one person, we harm ourselves and everyone. As John Donne wrote in 1624, and I paraphrase, we never have to ask for whom the death bell tolls. It tolls for all of us because we are all a part of humankind. And it follows that when we help others, we help a part of ourselves as individuals, a part of humankind as a collective, and a part of all that is. In short, when we help even one person, we help ourselves and everyone. And it is this growing awareness that helps guide us into acting in harmony with our nature of love, compassion, and goodness, and brings us joy in the process, making the process of helping and not harming a fun and joyful experience. And together, this is Seth's overall message and the full secret. Yet, Seth's overall message and the full secret have their own further purpose. We have not collectively, on an oversoul level, created the whole of physical reality and then sent forth all of our focal personalities throughout endless linear time periods just for the hell of it. And we are not here on this planet just to learn Seth's message or the full secret for the sake of learning them. Like, okay, now we've learned them and it's all over, period, lesson learned. No. We created and inhabited physical reality for a reason and with a purpose. And that purpose is not just to learn the lessons for the sake of learning the lessons, nor is that purpose to realize that physical reality is different from non-physical reality, and then try to pretend it is supposed to be like non-physical reality, or proudly define physical reality as an illusion, as not real, as if we finally catch the hidden canary of truth to wear as our feather of awareness. That further purpose is tied to the contrary, that physical reality is not simply an illusion or a camouflage reality, to use Seth's term, but rather it is its own valid, crucial, and significant reality, created for its differences, and we're here to use those differences. Seth, existence has a physical version. In that framework, you are born and die, an indefinite sequence. Death is a physical reality. It is real, however, only in physical terms. Seth, one of the root agreements upon which physical existence is based is that physical objects have a reality that is entirely independent of any subjective cause, and that these objects within definitely specified limitations are permanent. Again, these differences of physical reality are why we chose to experience physical reality with our endless reincarnational cycles, and why we chose to experience physical reality is the ultimate reason and purpose of Seth's message and the secret. We chose to experience physical reality and learn all the lessons because once the lessons are learned, we are ready to leave physical reality behind, to stop being human, so to speak. And that's a pretty important reason and purpose, to stop, not forget or lose, but to stop being human and move on from the physical experience to other unimaginable non-physical realities. And that's the hidden canary. The following is actually Seth II speaking. Please note that within some of the quotes that follow, I have sometimes very briefly inserted my own comments. You are being allowed freedom within limits. The human race is a state through which various forms of consciousness travel. You learn by seeing these turn into physical reality. You may be killed by what you have created. If so, the lesson is doubly learned. Before you can be allowed into systems of reality that are more extensive and open, you must first learn to handle energy and see through physical materializations the concrete result of thought and emotion. Barrie note. This is the first half of the secret. You create your own reality on its terms. As a child forms mud pies from dirt, so you form your civilization out of thoughts and emotions, and then see what you have created, and you must deal with it on its terms. In other systems, energy is more directly felt, more extensive. Consciousness has much more freedom in its utilization. The lessons here in physical reality must be properly learned before such responsibility. When you leave the physical system after reincarnation, you have learned the lessons, and you are literally no longer a member of the human race in those terms, for you elect to leave it. In more advanced systems, thoughts and emotions are automatically and immediately translated into action, into whatever approximation of matter there exists. Therefore, the lessons must be taught and learned well. And that's it in a nutshell. That is the purpose of physical reality, the purpose of the Seth material, and the purpose of the full secret. And what guidance does Seth give us to achieve that purpose or goal? He says that we should not let our non-physical awareness supersede our physical reality experience. We are not in physical reality to try to act as if or pretend it is non-physical reality, or to try to turn it into a pseudo non-physical reality somehow, and then try to follow our ideas about non-physical reality rules and pretend the physical ones don't exist. But rather, we are here to use physical reality as it is, in its concrete terms, in order to learn from it. Again, what do we have to learn from it? One, that we create our own reality via our beliefs, emotions, and expectations. And two, in so doing, we are to help and not harm others. For only after those lessons are learned are we ready to leave the reincarnational cycle behind and move on to realms and dimensions in which reality creation is instant, expansive, and more intense, and something we cannot yet imagine. Let's look at our final Seth quote. Seth, man was not allowed to play with the more dangerous toys until certain evidence was given that he had gained some control. To gain this control, we needed physical reality and its vulnerability, linear time lag, and concrete results. This does not mean that he could not destroy the world that he knew. It simply meant that such destruction was not inevitable. You do not give a child a loaded gun if you are certain he is going to shoot himself or his neighbor. Now, the weapons and the destruction are the obvious things that you see. Their counterparts, the counterparts to the weapons and destruction, are not so evident. And yet, it is the counterparts that are important. These counterparts are the self-discipline learned, the control, the compassion that finally is aroused so that the final and last lesson is learned, the positive desire for creativity and love, which is helping and not harming others, over destruction and hatred. When this is learned, the reincarnational cycle is finished. In other words, we learn to not only create our own reality, but also to act on our innate compassion, love, and goodness. And this is the second half of Seth's main message and of the full secret. And this whole theory is woven together with love, including the needles used and all the infinite threads. And so now all the dots are almost connected. This is why love is key to and the foundation of the Seth Material and the Full Secret, and of their overall message, which to summarize is, we are here to learn that we create our own reality via our beliefs, emotions, and expectations, attracting people and events. And in so doing, we are to help and not harm others, or as Seth says, to arouse the compassion that is within us. And ultimately, why? Is it just to receive some sort of spiritual gold star to wear on our souls? No, it is because only once these lessons are learned are we then ready to leave the reincarnational cycle behind and to no longer be a member of the human race, but rather to move on to other realms and dimensions that we cannot even imagine, in which reality creation is instantaneous and more intense and expansive. To fully summarize, as we said before, love is the stuff of us and of all reality. It is the glue that holds every reality together. It is our love for ourselves and others that motivates us to take care of ourselves and others, and to help and not harm ourselves and others. Love is behind why we created physical reality, why physical reality stays glued together, and why we sent forth ourselves throughout linear time in order to experience it on earth, which itself can only exist because of love. Love is both the motive and the method via which to create physical reality and to learn its lessons. So, without love, there would be no reality at all. No physical dimension, no earth, no people, and no message or secret. No Seth message or secret. So here is the full secret in 3 parts and Seth message. The full secret in 3 parts. Part 1. We created physical reality in order to learn 2 major lessons. Part 2. These lessons are: you create your own reality via your beliefs, emotions, and expectations. 2. In so doing, you are to include helping and not harming others. Part 3. We learn these lessons so that we can eventually leave the reincarnational cycle behind and move on to other realities that are instantaneous, more extensive, and more intense. And this is why that one word love best describes the Seth material. And this is how love, the Seth material, and the full secret are all connected. And now all the dots are connected. I hope you enjoyed this journey with me into love, the Seth material, and the full secret. For more of my work, including essays on the paradox of death and the importance of drinking water. Okay. For more of my work, including essays on the paradox of death, simultaneous time, and more, along with 500 pages of answers to the many Seth questions put to me over the years, including topics like beliefs in reality creation, consciousness and reincarnation, and much more, including a version of this presentation. You can find my book, Seth Material Q&A, The Spiritual Inner Journey of Self-Awareness by Barrie Gellis, original Seth class member, answers your questions. This book is available on Amazon and on Rick Stack's online bookstore. You can see the address there. For a signed copy with some extra goodies added by me, you can email me at bargell@aol.com. Please also feel free to email me any comments and questions regarding this presentation or the Seth material. Thank you very much.